Hello, everybody. I want to talk about coming from love, and I'm talking about unconditional love. And it's really, really easy to talk about, but it's really tricky to do as a human because we've hurt all our emotions. And the reason I'm doing the podcast right now is because the energy of the world is really awful, and there's a lot of anger around, and it's important that you don't hook into that, as we've spoken about before, and you need to come from love. And the way to come from love is to come through your heart when you speak to people, and also to be somewhat patient with everybody. I hope you don't mind all my little birdies are going crazy outside the window here. When you come from love, it's a very quiet place. It's not a loud place, and you actually say less when you come from love sometimes, but people can feel it, and that's the difference. It's an energy that people feel. When you come from anger or passive aggressiveness, if you're feeling passive aggressive towards someone, they will feel that. It doesn't matter what your words are saying, they'll feel that. The important thing is to come from love with people. You can have your boundaries, and you can have what you will or won't do, and how you feel you should do certain things or not do certain things which are healthy for you. However, you can still come from love. It's not a position of weakness, as many people believe. It's actually a position of power, because it's much easier to come from control and power and boss people around and punish them and do all these things that control and power do, than to come from love. When you do it, just come through your heart when you speak to them. That's the best way to do it. And if you have to get on the phone in a minute or be on FaceTime with them, just before, just bring the love in and come from love. And tell them that you love them too. It's important to say these things. People know that we love them, but they need to be told these things. They need to be told these things often. And actually, when they're going through a really tough time, they actually need to be told it even more than usual. So be very verbal. If you love your sister and she's driving you nuts and you have to ring her up, come from love and tell her you love her, because that's what conditional love is like. People who do power and control use conditional love, and if you don't do what they want, they punish you and withdraw the love. You don't want to be like that. You want to be a loving, kind person. I feel for you, if you're listening to these podcasts, you're trying to work on yourself, you're trying to become a better person. And to be honest, to be a better spiritual person, we actually need to come from love. Our human will always be fighting, and you'll have that when you don't want to, and they did this and they did that, and all your grudges, but you need to let that go and continue to come from love. And that will actually help the situation, because when you come from love, what it does is energetically, because you're coming from that energy and it's such a high vibration, it actually alters your relationship with that person, regardless of what they do. It alters it and it shifts it and it gives it opportunity. Not everyone wants to come from love towards you. You know that. However, your part isn't about what they're doing, your part is what you're doing. That's the bit you own. And I would suggest you continue to come from love, even they're being little rat bags. Just keep coming from love. Sometimes coming from love also means that you stand your ground quietly. You don't have to have a fight about it. They know what they did. You know what they did. They know that you know what they did. You don't even have to talk about it sometimes. There are times when it's an understanding. It's a telepathic understanding, and we all know what's going on here. But for peace and for love, we're not going to go back into the past and drag it all through and blame people and get into a fight. It's not worth it. It's done. And that's the other thing. When you come from love, it's very much in the present. It usually negates anything that happened before. It's like a way you do it without grudges and without bearing any malice. It's a good place to come from. It's like, I suppose you could call it mindful love. We're talking about mindfulness, that thing. So you're actually being in the present. You're not worrying about what they did before and you did before, and you're not worrying about what will happen in the future. You're just being now, being a loving person. When you come from love, it's also active. Therefore, be happy to send them just a random text. Love you lots. Love you, miss you. So glad you're in my life. A little heart thing. Leave a little message. Send a little present. Send a little card. These are all actions of love. And you've got to understand that these are manifestations of love and they have an energy to them. So when that person reads that text or gets their little card, or here's the voicemail that you sent them. When they hear that, they feel the love and it goes into them. And to be quite honest, people who come from power and control, when I've checked them, they don't have too much love in their heart. So they sure need it. And that's how I see it. I'm filling up empty vessels because these people don't have a lot of love to give and they need more love. So you sending them love to their heart and doing those sort of practices, sending love to them, speaking to them, that is actually really good for them and good for their actual health on many, many levels. It also allows them to come in, because people sometimes just find it hard to tell you that they love you or give you stuff or speak out loud. They just find it difficult. But the more you do it toward them, the easier it kind of gets. It's like you open the door to love for them, so they can walk through the door of love and come to you. Because some people need that. They need the door open. They just can't do it themselves. They've got too much stuff going on there. But if you be loving to them with no strings attached, complete unconditional love to them, regardless of what's going on, they can come through the door. It's a really great practice. I try and do it all the time. It makes me a better person, I think, but also it makes me surmount all the anger and hurt and grudges and the normal stuff that I have as just a human, and put that aside and just be loving. And that's what you need to do, is see it like you put it aside. This is not more important than what I'm trying to do in our relationship. And that little saying, I've said it before, I think, the relationship is more important than being right. And people who in power and control always want to be right. And sometimes you might be right. What they did was crap. But you don't have to rub it in. You don't have to bring it up. We all know what they did is crap. They know what they did is crap. But now we move on. It's a great healing for everybody. It's good for you because you're opening up your heart chakra and your capacity to love is getting greater, and you just stand in love with them. It's good for them because they're receiving it. And there's a kind of an unwritten forgiveness in it. People don't use that word when they're being like this, but when you just keep being loving to somebody and you don't blame and shame them and you don't punish them, there's a kind of a lovely forgiveness there, because we're all so flawed and we're always mucking up. We don't get it right. We do it the way we shouldn't have done it, etc., etc. And people press our buttons. However, at the end of the day, the only thing that's really important is that we were loved and we loved. That's what we've come down here to do. We've come down here to love other people and to be loved as well. And this might be a lesson for you too, if you have trouble receiving love, that when people be loving to you, there's no agenda. You can usually feel when it is agenda, and you just receive the love. And the more you love other people, the more you shower them with love. You can never give a person too much actual love. Love doesn't spoil, okay? You can never give anyone too much love. However, our society doesn't actually feel like that, does it? They're not talking about coming from love. It's all about me and ego and power and control. Try it. It works. You just keep doing it. You just keep doing it. And you can see them also at night or when you think of them, and just send them a whole lot of pink light, a whole lot of love. They'll get it energetically, and that'll download into your human world and make the relationship better. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. It's easy to say it. It's easy to talk about it, but it actually can be quite hard to do, especially when they've made you angry and they've hurt you, because you have to kind of put that aside a bit and just kind of go around it to get to the love bucket. I'm not saying it's that easy, but I'm saying it's a really good thing to do. So I hope that you have lots of people that you're sending love to this week, and I hope lots of people send love back to you.